Hi, my name is Kristin and this is the start of a new weekly reading vlog. The first one I have posted in many months. I just always start them and never actually complete them because I'm just terrible at that. Hopefully you will be seeing this video because I really want to get back into doing them. I love watching them, so I should love filming them. And I have realized I'm on a bit of a romance kick. I read The Hookup Plan by Farrah Roshan. That is the third book in the Boyfriend Project series, and I had a good time with that. And then I read Hook, Line, and Sinker, which is the sequel to It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. Mixed feelings, but those are both part of my summer sequels challenge that I'm doing for myself, and I will be updating you on all my thoughts on those in an update video soon, I think at the end of August, so look out for that if you want to know all my thoughts on Hook, Line, and Sinker. But that really made me want to read more romance. So I feel like August is the last month of summer in my mind. That is, like, once September is here, I want to read the spooky stuff, the witchy stuff, the horror stuff. So I feel like this is my last chance to read romance before Christmas comes, and that's when I start reading all my holiday romances. So I have 3 here that I would like to try and get to this week. And the first one is the one that I'm just about to start, and that is by The Book by Jasmine Guillory. This is the second book in the A Meant to Be series, so another book from my summer sequels challenge, and this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and I'm also thinking about doing a video of ranking all of the Beauty and the Beast retellings I've read, and so I want to get this one read for that as well. And I do like Jasmine Guillory's Wedding Date series. I know that series gets a lot of mixed reviews, but I just like how predictable and fun they are. You know, you're gonna get a lot of food talk, and they're just fun for me. But I'm excited to read something that is not part of that series, and I really liked the first book in this series. It's If the Shoe Fits, which was a Cinderella retelling, but that was written by Julie Murphy. And then I just realized that the third book is coming out next year, and it's called Kiss the Girl, which is obviously a Little Mermaid retelling, and the author of that one is Zoraida Cordova, who I absolutely adore. I fell in love with her books last year, so I'm really excited to continue on with the series. So this is high priority. It's not very long. Then here's another one I've been wanting to read. This author actually follows me on Bookstagram, and I feel like I should probably read some of her stuff, and people seem to love it. This is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, and I was just approved on NetGalley, which actually after this clip I'm gonna film a NetGalley TBR, which will probably go up before this. So if you haven't seen that, I will link that down below. But this is a YA romance, and obviously has nods to classic movies like Say Anything, Dirty Dancing, I think The Notebook. So I think this will be a cute one, and I do want to read her stuff. People seem to love her. And then the last one I have is Love in Other Words by Kristin Lakelore. And this, I hated the original covers. It was so ugly. So when I saw that they re-released it with this cover, I was thrilled. So I grabbed a copy. Hating Her, Dating Her, I forgot what it's called. I've done this before, but they have a similar redesign of the cover, so I'd like to get to that eventually. But so many people told me that this is very similar to Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, which I absolutely loved when I read it earlier this year, so I'm hoping I do get that vibe. So I have a feeling this is Friends to Lovers, Second Chance Romance, so I am up for that. This is a longer book, and I have to say, my experience with Kristin Lakelore and their books are very mixed. My favorite is definitely The Honeymooners. I haven't really loved their newer stuff. I didn't love the Christmas one at all, and I didn't like the Something Moon. I don't even remember the titles anymore, but I just haven't loved their last few books. So I'm hopeful that if I dive into their backlist, their deeper backlist, I will enjoy it. And I know that this is a lot of people's favorites. And then of course I need an audiobook. So I'm also listening to an ALC, but this book's already out. And this is from Libro Femme. It's Thank You for Listening by Julie Whalen, who is a popular audiobook narrator, and I forgot that she wrote The Oxford Year. I haven't read that, but I remember that being popular at the time, and I don't know that I actually put it together that they were the same person. So I love that she's also an author, and that this book in particular is a love story between 2 audiobook narrators, and I think it's Hate to Love. So I think that's gonna be a really good time, a really good listen. Obviously, Julie Whalen narrates it herself, so that is what I'm gonna be focusing on this week. No major plans for the week. I am at a beach town, so I'll probably have a lot of beach B-roll footage. Right now, the air conditioning here is broken, so I am perspiring, and hopefully that gets fixed soon because it is hot here. It is record breaking. It feels so, the humidity is next level. We need a good thunderstorm. It's supposed to happen today, but So yeah, hopefully getting a lot of good B-roll footage, and there's nothing I love more than reading romances on the beach, so hopefully I can get through these. So I will keep you posted, and hopefully in the next clip, the air conditioning will be working. It is the next day. It is Tuesday, and I have made some progress in by the book. I am 70 pages in, chapter 7. I will let you know my thoughts on that in a second. I just wanted to say that the air conditioning is working and it's heaven, so I'm happy about that. But this book, I think it takes a minute to get into the writing. It's very simplistic writing, which I kind of think is true for all of Jasmine Guillory's romances, but it makes them very readable. The prologue was a bit silly. I didn't think the writing was as great in the prologue, but it does get better, and I liked what it did. The prologue, we're following our main character. Obviously her name is Isabel, as this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, and it's her first day at her new job in publishing, and she has all these great ideas of what publishing is going to be. And then the first chapter is 2 years later, and all the dreams she had for publishing have been crushed. And I think it's a very timely book, considering a lot of the conversations about publishing that are happening on Twitter. If you are on Twitter, you've probably seen that a lot of people are leaving publishing, especially people of color. And Isabel is a black woman in publishing, one of the few at her company, and she's kind of being tokenized for that. And it's an interesting and timely discussion, and one that I think is important to have. So I appreciate this book for that. And we are now at the point where she has met our Beast character. His name is Beau, and he is a celebrity who is supposed to be writing a memoir for her publishing company, but nobody's heard from him in years, and he had this big contract with them, and nobody's getting any updates. So she's sent to his house to talk to him, and the way that he convinces her to stay there for a few days is very convoluted. I rolled my eyes, but you kind of just have to get over it. This is just a cheesy romance, and it's trying to follow some of the themes of the original story, so some of it is going to be ridiculous, but I like the little nods to it. He tells her to be my guest when they're sitting down to dinner. Her publishing company is called The Tale as Old as Time. The Wi-Fi password is Lumiere. So there's just little nods like that I think are fun. And he's more Beast-like in his personality. Right now he's quite angry. She's not afraid of him. He's not overly aggressive. He's just kind of mean. And he's got somebody that works for him that, her name is Michaela, but he calls her Kettle for some reason, which again is another nod to the original Disney version of the story. So yeah, I'm interested to see how the romance starts, because right now, 70 pages in, no hints at a romance at all. She does not like him very much. He's done one nice thing for her, but he's kind of just a jerk right now. So I'm curious to see how that all unfolds. I feel like in Beauty and the Beast, they get to it quite quick, that there's feelings there or something more. We haven't gotten to that really yet, but I am intrigued. Anyways, it's set in Santa Barbara, which is kind of fun, and I'm excited to see how the roses play into this. Beau has obviously a traumatic past we just don't know about yet, and I think that he'll start to open up to our main character, so I'm enjoying it. I think I will finish this quickly. Today I am going to a city about an hour away with my neighbors, so I don't know that I'll get too much more of this read. I have to watch last night's episode of Better Call Saul. This is the penultimate episode, so the finale's next week, which is just kind of wild to me. So I have to watch that. I heard it's heartbreaking. If you still are into the Breaking Bad universe, if you're watching Better Call Saul, let me know, because I don't feel like it's as talked about now as it was when Breaking Bad was on, but I still really enjoy it. So that is my day. I will update you probably tomorrow. I don't see if I have another chance to update you today, but I've also started listening to Thank You for Listening on audiobook, but I just started. I can't say anything about that one yet, other than it's exciting. I like to listen to Julie Whalen's narration, so it's fun to be listening to something she is narrating and wrote herself, so we'll see about that one. I saw some good reviews for that today too, so I'll keep you posted. I just got back from the beach. It is, what day is it today? When you're at the beach, you forget any sense of time. I think it is Wednesday, and I managed to read a lot of By the Book. I think it has less than 50 pages left, but I want to give you some thoughts before I get to the end. And it was a perfect beach read. I understand why people don't love this, but I do. It's perfect for me. I have a cat coming in the room now. It is the perfect romance just to read on the beach. It is a Disney, it's from the Disney publisher, so you know that it's very PG. This is just kissing. There's no like steamy scenes, so it's not awkward to read in public. Not that that has stopped me before. I'm just saying, just in case you're wondering. And there are also a lot of great nods to Beauty and the Beast, even more than what I thought last time. We get a library scene, which, you know, I appreciated. And I would say that this is enemies to lovers, very loosely. Enemies to friends to lovers, which is something that I'm realizing that I appreciate, because I can see how people can go from misunderstanding each other, not liking each other, to developing a friendship, and then that becomes something more. I like the transition in between, and we really have that. There's no romantic connection between them until 200 pages in. So it's really more about Isabel and her finding her confidence, a lot about her work. And I forgot about the Wedding Date series by Jasmine Guillory, just how important food was. I remember the second book, just all they did was, I have a cat on the bed and she's moving the tripod, but all they did was eat pizza, and I think the one that's set in England, there was lots of scones. I just remember food being very important to the stories and to the characters, and that is true in this one. Isabel and Beau really bond over their love of food, their love of snacks. Beau has a snack cabinet in his kitchen, which is what dreams are made of. They have a chef that cooks for them every night, and she makes elaborate meals, so there's lots of discussion about food. Even when they're kissing, it's like, okay, we need to stop and eat something, we're hungry. So very food driven, which I remember from her other books. There's the cat in question. So speaking of food, her name is Crumpet. But what I loved about this one is, because it might be cheap, but because of all the food conversations, the characters feel relatable. And it's not as overdone as it was in some of her others, but I could see how that could grate on people. So far, they have had a few arguments here and there that I understood, but so far, there's no third act conflict. So I'm coming on here to say, I hope there will not be one, but I could see that potential for there to be one, and she's trying to get my attention so badly, but we'll see how that plays out. So when I wrap this up tonight, I'll probably come back on here tomorrow and let you know if I was right about the third act conflict. But also, I think if you're a writer, you'll appreciate this one, because there's a lot of conversations about the struggles of writing. Isabel gives Beau a lot of great tips, so I think maybe even you will get some tips out of this if you have a passion for writing, and just about questioning your career path. A lot of things that people in their 20s and 30s and throughout their life deal with, those are topics in here. So I'm having fun with this for what it is. So yeah, great day at the beach. I actually saw a lot of people reading on the beach. One of the books, I actually saw a young girl behind me reading this, Better Than the Movies, and I was going to talk to her, but she was deep into her book, so I didn't want to disturb her. But it was exciting to see, because I think this might be the next book I bring with me tomorrow, or it might be this. So we'll see. It'll probably be this, but as I said at the beginning of this vlog, I do want to get to both of these. But it was nice to see somebody reading that. I saw a lot of Taylor Jenkins read on the beach. A lot of her backlist, like her deeper backlist. I saw the girl who was reading this, her friend was reading Maybe in Another Life. And are you one of those people that has to know what everybody on the beach is reading? Because that is so me. I put on my sunglasses and I'm like this, trying to see what everybody's reading, because it's so fascinating for me. And they're always reading interesting stuff, and it's just nice to see so many people reading, and I think that probably has a lot to do with TikTok. But anyways, I will cross your fingers there's no third act conflict, because I'm trying to put together a video of romances with no third act conflicts, and it's proving to be very difficult. So I'd love to be able to recommend this one, so we'll see. Okay, this lighting is not the best, but I wanted to come on here and tell you that I did finish this last night. And this might be spoilery. I'm just going to tell you whether or not there was a third act conflict. So I'll put spoiler on the screen, and as soon as I'm done talking about it, I will take that off. But I am happy to report that there is no third act conflict in here. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, obviously in the Disney movie, the original Beauty and the Beast, there is a third act conflict, so there's going to be one in here, and I was just waiting for it to come, and there was an obvious direction that could have gone, but it didn't happen, and it was so refreshing. The last page of this was super cheesy and corny and kind of ridiculous, but I could get over that. I think the whole thing's kind of cheesy. It's a retelling of a Disney princess movie. That's kind of the point, and it's not like high drama in any way. I am reading this right now, Love and Other Words, and I'm flying through this. I have to say, I'm on page 89. This is already way more dramatic than this, and this is still early days. You just know that this is gonna become torturous, and this was just like a simple story about these two who have a misunderstanding about one another. They're dealing with their own personal lives. They form a friendship, they work together, they become something more, and it's kind of sweet. It's a good, refreshing book, a nice palate cleanser, so I'm glad that I started the week with this one. It's kind of what I needed, and I thought it was fun. It makes me more excited for the third one because, again, these are books in a series that you know what to expect. They're very PG, they're so low stakes, they are relatable characters, and you get a lot of nods to the original movies, so it's just a good time. So I enjoyed that one. I don't think everybody will love this. You have to be in the right mood for it, and you have to be that kind of romance reader who can just like stuff like that. And then this is definitely, everybody compares this to Every Summer After by Carly Fortune, and I cannot get that book out of my mind. It's such similar vibes. The setup is so similar, about this girl whose family buys a house at the lake or a cabin, and she has a romance with a boy next door. That is in both of the books, and they're both in two timelines, in the past where we see them as teenagers falling in love, and in the present where they're running into each other for the first time all these years later, and you know something dramatic happened and they haven't spoken. So I think that is interesting, the parallels between those two, but I do find that this one is reading a bit quicker. I don't know why that is. And in Every Summer After, I was more invested in the past chapters when they were teenagers, and in this one I think I'm more interested in the now, because I'm curious to see what happened here. I actually really like Elliot, our love interest, and his perspective as an adult and his passion already. So I think this is interesting. And trigger warnings already for cancer and parental death. I teared up within those first 80 pages. It's already quite emotional, so I think that's important to know going into that one, because a lot of the Kristin Lauren I have read has been more lighthearted, but this one feels like it's going to be a bit more emotional. So I'm going to sit down and make my way through this. I haven't listened to any audiobooks. I haven't listened to Thank You for Listening yet because I just have not been in the mood. It's been too nice out. I just want to read on the beach. I'm supposed to just have a lot of good days ahead weather-wise. So I'm hoping to get through this and better than the movies, and maybe find some time for Thank You for Listening. But when I'm not reading this, I'm watching Love Island, to be honest with you. And that is a good guilty pleasure. I am enjoying that. We're in the cast of more episodes. My best friend at home, he watches too, and we text about it. So that's been my focus at night. So hopefully I can prioritize this. So really romance all across the board in all of my media right now. So that's it. Nothing else exciting is happening. I am editing a video right now, and that is all. So I will keep you posted. I think I read the 80 pages in 45 minutes or something, so I'm hoping I can make a huge dent in this and update you later tonight. So this took a turn, and not in a good way. I ended up rating this 2 stars, which is very disappointing. A lot of what I liked about it didn't overshadow what I ended up hating about it, to be honest with you. But what I didn't like about this is very spoilery, so I am going to do a spoiler section, and I will just say that what I don't like is I thought was problematic, so I have some serious issues with it. And there were other things I didn't like as well, but they're also spoilery. But I will tell you the things I liked. I really liked Elliot as love interest. I thought he was sweet and charming, and sure, he held on to a love for 11 years, a teenage love, and maybe that seems unrealistic, but I thought he was sweet and charming. I really liked him as a main character. I didn't love him as a teenager. I didn't love the teenager chapters in this very much. I didn't love Macy as a teenager either. The way she spoke about other girls just gave me like not like other girls energy, which I know a lot of teenagers are like that. I was probably like that, but I just didn't like to read about it, and they didn't feel like real teenagers to me. But the present chapters I really liked. I really liked seeing them reconnect. I liked Macy's other friends that she had, and I liked just like the instant chemistry that they've always had after all these years. I like that about second chance romance, so none of my issues were about that. So now I'm gonna get into the spoiler section. So I will timestamp this and I will put spoiler across the screen, so once that disappears, you know you can come back if this is a book you want to read. And a lot of people do love this. The rating on Goodreads is like a 4.3 something, so this is just my opinion. I've looked at some 1 to 2 star reads and a lot of people agree with me, so it's just really about your perspective. So now to the spoilers. The whole crux of this novel is that you're wondering the entire time why these two broke up. And it's danced around and nobody says it out loud. They don't talk about it. It's very frustrating because every 2 seconds they're like, we need to talk about this. We'll talk about it in a week. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll talk about it in a month. Just talk about it. And when they finally talk about it, it was just, okay. So what happened was, when they were teenagers, they were together, they were in love, they had a fight, they went to a party. Elliot got really drunk to the point that he was not very conscious. He was almost passed out, and he ends up being sexually assaulted by another girl that he knows, and he thinks the entire time that he is with Macy, but he is not. And Macy walks in on this encounter and obviously thinks that Elliot is cheating on her, and she leaves. And they never speak again. But it's never addressed in the book. It is acts like he made a mistake, he cheated. No, he did not. He was sexually assaulted. And I think that this is an interesting conversation that needs to be had about how when men are sexually assaulted, it's not taken as seriously. He did not consent to having sex with this girl. He thought he was with Macy. This girl knew that he was very, very drunk. All the friends in the room that saw this happening knew that he was very, very drunk, that he was in love with Macy, that he would not be cheating on Macy. So it was just horrible. And it's like he feels all this guilt because it happened. And no, it should, I wish it had addressed that. He talks about how his problems with intimacy after this encounter, but that's coming from guilt. I wish it was addressed that that is coming from being assaulted. And I just wish that if you're gonna go there and that's gonna be the twist, that you handled it in a better way. So that was my major issue with this book, that just it's still not sitting right with me right now. So the other issue I have is, again, the other twist at the end of this is that the day that that happened, Macy calls her dad to come pick her up because she's devastated, and on the way to pick her up, he dies in a car accident. And that's part of why she chooses never to speak to Elliot again. But they run into each other 11 years later, and Elliot asks her how her dad is, and she says that he died. And it's just hard for me to believe that he would have no idea in those 11 years that her dad had passed away, that if there was a fatal car accident close to him, he wouldn't have heard about it, that the neighbors wouldn't have heard that this man had passed away. It would never come up in 11 years. You didn't Google them. You pined for this girl this time. You never Googled them. You're never curious what happened to them. An obituary for the father never came up. Then he ran into her. She says that her father had passed away. He admits that he Googled her after that and saw that she was a doctor, but he didn't think, he's wondering what happened to her father, but he didn't Google it, and there's no obituary online. That was hard for me to suspend my disbelief, especially since that was supposed to be the big twist. And I think I'm so conflicted on Kristin and Lauren. I love the Unhoneymooners, but I haven't loved anything else by them, so I don't know. So that is the end of the spoiler section. So yeah, this just really was not for me. I don't think I was in the mood for one of these like emotional, I feel like it was manipulative in that way. Like, you know, like Kristin Hannah kind of books, I just don't love those where you know that the authors are going to play with your emotions. It just wasn't handled well for me. I didn't like it. And yeah, I will not be keeping this book, which is too bad because this is a gorgeous cover. I just did not like it. So let me know if you've read this, and if you watch the spoiler section, what you thought. If you agree with me, let me know. I'm open to conversation about this. Because I know a lot of people love this, and I can understand the appeal of a lot of it, but I just can't get over the last 15%. So I'm hoping that I'm gonna love better than the movies. I don't have it with me right now, but I'm in the need for a palate cleanser after that, and I know that that's a YA contemporary romance, so I think it should fit the bill. And I might pull out something on my Kindle if I have time, because it's only Friday. So we'll see if I can get through better than the movies. And then I'll maybe pull out an e-arc that I have or something. And I just went to my favorite restaurant in the world. It's a sushi place, and I am so full. It's so delicious. I get this. It's called One Love. It is shrimp tempura, mango, and they have like a green curry mayo on top. It's the best thing in the world. So I'm very happy today that I needed to go treat myself after reading that terrible book. So yeah, let me know what you thought about that one, because it's just not sitting well with me for some reason. And normally I don't mind like some darker themes in romance and stuff, at least as long as it's addressed, and it wasn't addressed in that one. So yeah, it's just not sitting well with me. So let's hope the next book works better. So it's Saturday, and there's one day left in my reading vlog, and I'm very happy with my progress so far, because this morning I finished Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. And I didn't update you on this at all because there's really not much to update you on. It's one of those books you can just read in one sitting. It's YA contemporary, it's short. It felt like I was reading the script of a movie like She's All That, or 10 Things I Hate About You, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, and something that I should probably rewatch. I was thinking, like, after reading this, I'm kind of in the mood for like a teen rom-com from like the early 2000s. That was like my generation, my era, and I know a lot of them have issues now. I watched some of them back and I was like, ooh, that doesn't hit like it did back then. But there are quotes in here. This one actually is 10 Things I Hate About You. You're not as vile as I thought you were. And I just think that's kind of the vibe of this one. We're following a character named Liz, who is in love with a guy that was her neighbor growing up, and he left town, he's back, and she wants him to ask her to prom. So she enlists the help of her other neighbor, Wes, who is just kind of a pain, and they're always arguing over a parking spot. He's always bugging her, she can't stand him, but maybe there's something more there in the end. And she is grieving the loss of her mother, and her mother really loved rom-coms. So part of holding on to the memory of her mom is to watch the rom-coms, and she thinks that she needs to have this big movie moment. And her mom always told her not to go for the bad guy, and she sees Wes as the bad guy, so she resists her feelings to him, yada, yada, yada. It's like she's not great to her friends in this, she's lying to her friends. It's all those kind of tropes that you might expect from those kind of movies. And it was just kind of fun. I had a good time with it. It's not the perfect book by any means, but it's a good time. It's one I recommend. It was perfect for after having read Love in Other Words. It's what I needed, because I think that book could have got me in a reading slump, and this one stopped me from doing that. So I recommend it if you're in the mood for something light to read on the beach. If you grew up in the same generation I did, the same era I did, and you like the early 2000 movies, this is a good one. We get a lot of good quotes. When Harry Met Sally quotes in here, 500 Days of Summer, another good one. So it's just like a nod to all those movies, which is what I expected it to be, and it worked. And then I know I said I was gonna read maybe an e-arc, but I don't know that I'm in the mood for any of the romance e-arcs I have right now. I haven't listened to my audiobook at all because it's just been too nice outside, and I want to read outside with a book. So I was looking at what I have here, because obviously my options are limited, and this came up. I saw this and was like, why haven't I read that yet? This is not your typical romance. It's not contemporary. This is magical realism. It's Lakelore by Anna Marie Michelmore, who's one of my favorite authors. And they write like YA magical realism, and I don't think anybody does it as well as they do. Wild Beauty is one of my favorite books of all time. It's a divisive book. A lot of people don't love that, but I love it, and it's actually one of the first physical arcs I ever received, so I have a special place in my heart for it. But this one is a magical realism romance. I believe it's a romance, and we will see either way, because I really want to read it right now. And it is about these two non-binary characters who both are the only people that are aware that there is a whole world under the lake, and I think they get pulled into it somehow. And I think I heard somewhere that this is enemies to lovers. So I have a good feeling about this. No better time to read this than by the lake in the summertime. So this is happening, because I have a feeling after this week, I know it's still mid-August, but that's when my like fall reading starts to pick up. I'm gonna watch some moodier stuff. I have some obligation reads I have to get to, so that'll be next week's vlog. I'm bound and determined to finish Malice by John Gwynne. I have to listen to A Song for Oban by Guy Gabriel Kay, so I will be doing that next week. So this week I just want to finish it off with a nice light magical realism story by one of my favorite authors. So hopefully I will love this and I will update you and then wrap up this week of reading, which has been an interesting week for sure. I'm honestly shocked that this is the first clip I'm coming in with wet hair, because normally I film right after the shower, but I just didn't feel like drying my hair today, so here we are. And I didn't want to finish this, because normally I read in the morning as well. I love to read in the morning, but I stopped myself this morning because I want to give you an update on my thoughts of this before I finished it, and I'm loving it. I think this is going to be 5 stars. I can't see it going any other way. But I think in my last clip I said that this was enemies to lovers, and I have no idea where I got that idea from, because it is not. This is following 2 characters, Lore and Bastian, and they met when they were children. They ended up in this world underneath the lake together. They're the only ones that can see this world. They're separated. They come back together as teenagers years later, and they remember each other instantly. They have an instant bond. The world remembers them, and it's kind of following them around, like the water seeping into their lives. And this kind of scares them, and they don't know what's happening, and we don't know what's happening. And Anne-Marie McLemore's writing is beautiful and lyrical, and everything that I love from them, and everything that I kind of expect in magical realism. I think that genre is either something you love or you don't. So if you don't like beautiful lyrical writing, I don't think you will like this. But there is a lot to appreciate in here. The representation in particular, both characters are non-binary. They're both Mexican. They both are neurodivergent. And if you know anything about Anne-Marie McLemore, you know that they are non-binary and they are also neurodivergent. And I think that in the author's note they discuss this, how they have both ADHD and dyslexia. So Lore in this book is dyslexic, and Bastian has ADHD, and we get great perspectives from them of how that affects their everyday life, particularly Bastian's ADHD and the struggles that they have with that, and how they're always trying to hide that from others. And there's some great conversations about how when they grew up they were presenting as a girl, and how their ADHD was kind of ignored because of the way girls are socialized. I thought that was an interesting conversation. And then we're following Laura and their dyslexia, and how they learn to read, and how memorization is important, and how every teacher is telling them that that's not how you learn to read, and the frustration that causes them. So they're going through tutoring and everything. I just think the representation there is fantastic. Bastian is trans and is getting hormone shots, and we get that representation, and then the struggles of them not being able to pay attention to the instructions of how to do that themselves at home. So I just think a lot of teens will relate to this. A lot of people in general will appreciate this for so many reasons. And I don't know where the magical realism element of this is going, how this world all plays into the story, because right now in a lot of ways it just feels like a contemporary with maybe a little bit of magic on the side, which is kind of true for all of Anne-Marie McLemore's books. But I'm just curious to see how this all wraps up. I just didn't want to get to the end without telling you a little bit more about it and why I love it. And it's definitely a romance. There's been a little bit of some romantic connection already, so I'm happy about that. There's great friendship too. So much to love about this. I just adore it. I'm glad that I'm reading this, so I will let you know when I finish this. I think I have about 60 pages left, and then I will wrap up this vlog. Okay, it's Monday. I'm here to wrap this up. I loved Lakelore, 5 stars, no surprise here. I would say that if you go into this expecting to get everything explained to you and for the magic to be a huge part of the story, you will be disappointed. It's really just more of a metaphor and a device to bring these 2 characters together, and I was completely fine with it. The ending was quite moving. This is definitely a romance. It is sweet. Everything that I said about it in the beginning still holds true, and I just absolutely love Anne-Marie McLemore. I want to read everything that they've ever written and all of their short stories that they've written, anything in the future. It makes me want to drop everything and read Self-Made Boys right now. I have the ALC of that, but I have other commitments I need to get to first. But this is just a good reminder of how much I love magical realism, how much I love this author. So that was a hit, the best book that I read this week. And then I'll just quickly go through the other books that I read this week, just as a reminder. The first book I read was By the Book by Jasmine Guillory, another author I really like. This is just like a good fun time. It's enemies to friends to lovers, and I've discovered that that is a transition, that is a trope I like. I like having that middle step where they become friends before they become lovers. A lot of great nods to the original Disney movie. This is Disney publisher, so it is not steamy at all. So if that's what you're looking for, this is a good one. And I just had a great time with it. And then I read the worst book I read this week, 11 Other Words. I won't go into it again because it'll just make me angry, but I really didn't like this. And it's actually made me think that I should give up on Kristin Lauren, and I don't know that that is fair. But the only book of theirs that I have truly loved is The Honeymooner. So if you have any recommendations of theirs, I would love to know. I've read In a Holidays, I've read Twice in a Blue Moon, and a couple others, so just let me know. And then I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, and I'm happy to finally read something by Lynn Painter. She's been on my TBR for a long time. I have an e-arc of her 2022 release, The Do-Over, which I'm excited to get to now having read this. This is just fun. It just reads like watching a teen rom-com from the early 2000s. Major She's All That vibes, major 10 Things I Hate About You, all those typical movies from that time that I just love and have a soft spot for. So like the main character, she's kind of annoying. She's got that, not like other girls kind of energy, but she grows out of it and realizes that she doesn't treat her best friend in the best way. That's just kind of the character that you might expect from a book like this, but I had a good time with it. I love a prom scene, so I thought it was fun. So not too bad. These 4 books in the last week, I definitely got my romance mood out of the way. I am ready for something else. I didn't listen to Thank You for Listening at all. I need to get back to that. I just have not been in the mood for an audiobook, which is odd for me. So I'm gonna wrap this up, start a new weekly reading vlog, so look out for that soon. Thanks so much for watching all the way to the end. If you did make it this far, leave a beach emoji because that is where I read the majority of these, and I will see you next week.